The following Let's Play has been rated not safe for young children. Any attempts to break the game are for entertainment value only. However, if any typos happen to be found, mwahahaha! Alright. I really hope this search isn't for nothing. I also really hope that this key is pointless. That would kind of suck if it was as useful and I haven't used it the right way or something. Anyway, while I was waiting for myself to get around to getting a new camera, I decided to do a filler episode, and I chose Sword of Vengeance, which was made by What a Face 2. That game held promise. When I did that, Orion requested that I also do his demo, and so I did. Then it was time to move on to Whispers in the Woods. Except I couldn't because my computer broke. Just as a recap, I'll go ahead and tell my story about how my computer broke and about how my camera broke. Just in case I didn't tell either one. The computer thing was a nightmare. My computer just up and died for some strange reason. So I found a place that I was looking for a computer that would use a specific graphics card, mainly for Second Life, because that's honestly the most complicated thing I run on my computer. So I found this place that built a computer to my specifications with that specific graphics card. It got sent to my house eventually, and it turned out it was broken. Yeah, the parts of the front panel had fallen in, so it was damaged during delivery, I guess. So I contacted them, asked them about it, and they said, sure, we'll send you a front panel. And then over a week passed, actually 2 weeks passed, before I sent them an angry letter saying, hey, it never got sent. And the person on the other hand, on the other end of the email, was actually pretty good about it. Apologized for it and personally watched my part get packaged. So that was pretty cool. In case you're wondering, the place is called Ascend Tech. Ascend as in going up, and tech as in technology. They're the ones that built my computer. Considering the apology and customer service, I would probably recommend them if you're wanting to get a computer built by somebody. But anyway, that part finally got sent my way, and it turns out that wasn't the issue. That wasn't the reason my computer wouldn't start. Well, actually, I guess I didn't even try to find out if my computer would start, because the power button had fallen in itself. But anyway, got the panel put on, the computer wouldn't start. So we had to send the whole computer back, which is probably what we should have done in the first place. They got that fixed. It got sent back to me, And then I had the working computer. Yay! As for my camera, it was a double issue. First off, half the time it wouldn't start up, even with fresh batteries. And while trying to figure out what was going on with these batteries, I fumbled the camera and the battery cover broke off. So I sent the camera to Nikon, and they sent me a statement saying, okay, we'll repair for $100. How about no? So I just bought a new camera. I went up to Walmart. I can't believe I just admitted to going to Walmart, because I hate Walmart. Especially after having to deal with them giving me a copy of Batman Arkham Asylum, where Walmart advertisement is permanently printed on the game packaging. WTF, mates. But anyway, I went up there, looked at their new cameras, was left with a couple choices. L20 and some other fancy camera that was a little more expensive. The super fancy camera that I was looking at, considering, I decided against because it was really thin. I was looking at how thin that thing was, and it's like, how am I supposed to hold this thing? It's skinnier than my finger. It looked like a camera that I would be able to just break by holding it. So I decided on a fatter camera. I also checked Radio Shack. They had the same bigger camera. Did a price comparison, decided that the one at Radio Shack was cheaper, and so I got that. And got home, and it was at home that I realized that they weren't the same camera. One was the L20 and the other was L22. No big deal. I don't know can't remember what the difference was. But anyway, I started the camera up, or tried to, except it turns out that the camera wasn't working. So I looked at the instruction booklet, and it turns out that the issue with that, and probably the issue with my older camera, was these rechargeable batteries I was using. It turns out that not all AA batteries are shaped the same. You would expect them to be the same, but no. Apparently the batteries I was using had these really flat bottoms, while the batteries the camera recommended actually had a slight bulge on the bottom. And that was why my camera would not work. So as it turns out, I spent nearly $100 and broke a camera for pretty much no reason at all. And that's that story. Anyway, after that, I finally was able to record the opening of Whispers in the Woods, because I wanted to have a live action opening. Got that recorded, and then accidentally deleted most of the recording, which is why for the opening of the Whispers in the Woods, I was wearing 2 different shirts. For the first episode, I wanted to do something special for, well, I did my usual special recording. And by that point, by the time I finished that episode, it's like, I really don't feel like doing all the special editing anymore. It's not worth it. And that was the last episode to have all the special opening. It was the only episode of that LP to have the title image I drew up, and it was the only one to have the specialized ending exclusive to it. And then I continued on through Whispers in the Woods. And along the way, I figured I'd also start on an LP of Mario's Amazing Adventure, because I wanted to do a Mario Hack LP for a while. And I also did Aiden Chronicles, because all those other LPs of it were unfinished, and I wanted to show everybody an RPG on Nintendo 64 that most of them had not heard of. And not only an RPG, but one that sucked. And of course, you know the rest. As soon as I finished Whispers in the Woods, I made the announcement that next time you hear from me, I will no longer be a guy. And I was really optimistic about it too. Because, you know, I thought I would actually be able to start transitioning from male to female. And also get my voice worked on, try to train my voice a little bit. Turns out I never actually had the motivation to train my voice. And so by the time the LPs rolled around, that I didn't have the voice, so I started uploading it to Miss Fuzzbottom anyway, the account for Miss Fuzzbottom, but then I decided, eventually, no, it's kind of pointless if I don't sound like a Miss Fuzzbottom. And that kind of got worse because I ran out of money and couldn't afford to seek therapy, and then it's like, well, this is kind of a big setback, but, you know, maybe it could get better. But then it turns out
sometimes cries. There's a new ranger in this issue. His name is. And there are also a lot of other rangers indeed. When you need help, just call Bandales Rescue Rangers. Bandales Rescue Rangers. You'll never fail. This one's been involved somehow. Whatever case is so. Bandales Rescue Rangers. Bandales Rescue Rangers. You'll never fail. They'll take the clues and find the ways of ice and Bandale Rescue Rangers. Bandales Rescue Rangers. Bandale.
I have no idea how far over I am yet. Am I doing the right thing? Going out here, searching for an invisible door. You know what? I think it's a valid reason to quit this LP if I don't know how to beat it. What do you guys think? Oh, sure, I'll try to beat it, but no guarantees. Anyway, started on Spiritus. That's my first RPG Maker VXLP. That's a fun game. Also tried to get back into Mario's Amazing Adventure. That was disastrous because I'm out of practice. I actually tried recording another one since then, and that was disastrous. Made 2 recordings, and I died so much and had so much trouble concentrating on giving a good commentary that I scrapped both attempts, and I'll worry about it later. Maybe after this LP. You should totally see how I'm playing this game right now. Sitting on my couch, slouched over with my legs crossed and my head leaning to the side. I look like I'm just bored. 'Cause I am. I just remembered another thing I had planned for this game. Some other way to do it special. 'Cause I remember at the end of the Presto's Broken Dream LP, which by the way had an awesome cliffhanger. Not the game, mind you, but the last 2 episodes was a 2-parter because it turned out there was a game-breaking glitch that was impossible to deal with. So that made a pretty fun cliffhanger. But for Part 2 wound up going a bit too long. I wound up going on the tangent about my being a Dracoon and how I was in the furry fandom and that sort of thing. I probably could have just skipped that and finished the game sooner, but one thing I remembered was how Vulgus' loved how I went on the tangent while playing the game. So I was thinking, hey, when I do Door, I'll do the same thing. I'll talk about music. And I would make a special episode out of it, where I would, like, have me being on camera a few times, and also a few custom or drawn up graphics for making my point. I'm far enough away from finishing this. Might as well bring that up. Well, actually, I want to talk about cliffhangers first off. Spyful Dead. Too many cliffhangers. I really didn't want to have it start off with a cliffhanger because, well, it wasn't much of a cliffhanger, really. I mean, you fell out of the elevator crash, but whatever. My favorite cliffhanger from that would probably be the start of Shattered Lives, because it's like, okay, what is that skeleton? It's the buzzing noise. Is this back? To be continued. Problem with that was it was a 3-parter. That didn't have to be a 3-parter. Because the second cliffhanger was kind of forced. I couldn't find a good spot for the cliffhanger, so I waited. So I ended it at the start of a boss fight, and took a couple clips that I say during the boss fight, and used that to have the cliffhanger. What I should have done was, first off, it was okay with that first cliffhanger. That first cliffhanger was awesome. Then it's like, okay, so we're supposed to find this old man, and then we found the old man, and the old man tells us about the girl. That's where the episode should have ended, with me finding about the little girl. Of course, because I recorded all 3 episodes thinking it was 1 episode, and probably would have to be split into 2 episodes, I lost track of time because it was done over multiple days, and that's why it wound up being split into 3 episodes. What I should have done was, after the old man thing, I should have inserted a redubbing of the commentary to say, okay, well, next time we're going to go look for the little girl, and then that would have been the end of a 2-parter, and then the next episode could have been about finding the girl. As well as that crazy dude. And then there was the Spiteful Living, which was a completely unavoidable cliffhanger, because the cutscene was just that long. And then there's the 2-part finale, which, whatever, it wasn't a big deal. Overall, though, I think the cliffhanger usage was a bit too much in that LP. But, you know, it was how I played. What I wanted to do, I didn't want to end in the middle of a mission, so I'd play until the end of a mission. And that resulted in multiple cliffhangers, because some of them ran too long. I'm getting the feeling that there might not be an invisible door. I just like cliffhangers, you know? As long as they're not done too often. A lot of it comes from my childhood. We've got, with the Disney Afternoon specifically, it seemed like back then, whenever there was a 2-part episode, or 3-part, or 4-part, or 5-part, because they actually did get that long back then, those episodes had this extra sense of epicness. And it was also a case where it seemed like these episodes did not air that often, especially the pilot episodes. Plunder and Lightning seemed like it aired rarely. Rescue Rangers to the rescue seemed like it almost never happened. So it was really exciting when these episodes finally came on, and it's because of those shows that I wound up liking cliffhangers. In moderation. I already mentioned my pet peeve about how cliffhangers too much is ridiculous, but, you know, I didn't mention the Disney Afternoon thing, so yeah, I brought that up. Disney Afternoon is why I love cliffhangers. So, about the music thing. Yeah, I was planning on talking about music while I was doing Door the Game. I wanted to start off by talking about a commercial that appears on the radio. Here's how the commercial starts out. Guaranteed auto loans, guaranteed auto loans, guaranteed auto loans, guaranteed auto loans, I'm totally serious. He just repeats that over and over before he actually talks about the auto loans. But that's not the worst part about the commercial. It's this comes to the end of the commercial where he's giving the phone number. I can't remember the number, and if I did remember the number, I wouldn't tell you all what the number is anyway. But we'll say 555-4321. That's 555-4321. So easy, makes you want to smack your mama. 555-43... I mean, what the heck was that? So easy you want to smack your mama? That makes no sense. First off, it's insulting that you would imply that I would want to smack my own mother. Second, why would I want to smack my mom? Because the number's easy to remember? That makes no sense. Plus, it sounds out of place. It sounds like it came directly from some other commercial. It's just stupid. And then there's the little buffer, the little, jingle that every radio station has. This radio station has the worst jingle, most annoying jingle ever. It's like, hold on, I gotta get the voice right. Making noise, making noise, making noise, and then it's a whole bunch of other voices, and it's like, I love the music. And it's annoying. Now let's get to the actual music. At work, we had this one girl who would listen to this one particular radio station that had, today's worst music. Actually, the radio station, it was today's best music, but I disagree. First off, let's talk about this one song that is really weird. It goes like, my first kiss went a little like this. And twist. And twist. First off, what? Twist what? What? And then, it sounds like, those, patty cake things that some little kids do with the hand slapping and saying this rhyme. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like, my first kiss went a little like this. And twist. That's the sort of thing that you'd expect little girls to do. Those children patty cake rhymes that I think kids still do them. Do they still do them? I know that was a thing during the 80s, at least. But anyway, weird song. Then there's another song that doesn't have the best of lyrics. First off, it goes like, my gosh. Okay, yeah. And then it goes like, my voice is worn out. Okay, this is gonna sound terrible, but bear with me. If you've watched this LP up to this point, a little bad singing isn't gonna scare you away, so. Hold on, let me train my voice a bit anyway. Oh wait, it was actually that doesn't sound like a song you would sing on the radio. That sounds like a song you would sing at what do they call those? You know, when the cheerleaders pump up the school during a session in the gym. You know, those things. Like it's something that the cheerleader uses to pump up the fans. That's what it sounds like. And then there is probably one of the worst songs I have ever heard. Called, let's see, Empire State of Mind. That song makes my ears bleed. Now, I don't know what the lyrics are about. I assume New York, because they mention New York, and so is the song about New York. But the musician, the music, the beat, it's like just banging on the piano. That's not music. It's terrible. Every time that song would come on, I'd rush up to the radio and turn it off. Then there's another song by, I can't remember who, but it's like, can you meet me halfway? La, da, 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 da. I don't know what the song was. I actually plan to do a music video based on it, simply on the fact that some of it actually sounds stupid. First off, the ooh, I'll just do the high voice. Ooh, ooh. I was thinking, you know, that would be pretty funny if during the oohing part, I was like making a goofy face at the TV pointing at it because the TV is making rainbow effects. And then there's the, I can't do this. But it was like, I can't stand any more of this, was the line. And the way it was sung, it sounds like she was crying. I can't take any more of this. I also can't take much more of this game, by the way. Yeah, I had to segue into that. And I wanted to make a point of it by actually look like I was crying a whole lot in the music video. Would have been pretty interesting. Well, another song I just thought of. This isn't a bad song. It's actually a song I don't mind so much, called Paparazzi. And now, I might have mentioned this more than once, but I'm basically lyric deaf. I have a hard time understanding what anybody's singing in almost every song, and it takes either multiple listens or a lyric sheet for me to figure it out. But in Paparazzi, for a while, I thought she was singing Papa Loves Me. And it's like, oh, this is a nice song. It's about paparazzi instead. Well, still not a bad song, I don't think. Can I think of any other songs? You know, I should totally mention this older song as long as I'm on the subject of being lyric deaf. It's a song that talks about Little Boy Blue and the Man on the Moon. When you coming home, Pa, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. I know we'll have a good time then. I can't remember all the lyrics, but, you know, for the longest time, I thought this was a really pleasant song, a really nice song, because, hey, it was talking about children's fables. Little Boy Blue, Man on the Moon, sure. then one day I decided to look up the lyrics of the song, and it turns out to be a song about a father who neglects his son. That's not happy at all. Still a good song, but it's depressing. I'm probably almost all the way to the edge of the screen, and then I have to go back to that other spot. You know, how long have we been looking at just White and Goblin here? Was his name Goblin or Gobbly, or yeah, I guess it was Gobbly. Does he? What is the class? No skill. Okay, never mind then. All right. Can I think of another song? I probably can't think of any other songs to make fun of. There probably are other songs I should make fun of, but nope, I can't think of them. Maybe I could talk about a game. A game that annoys me. What game annoys me? The Boy and His Blob annoys me. I could never figure out what to do in that game. Just as well, I bought it for $10 at a gas station. Actually, it was still a waste of money. You know, there actually aren't that many games that I despise. A Boy and His Blob is definitely one of them, but generally, in any game that I play, there might be a flaw or two that definitely hurts the game, but overall, I won't think that the game's terrible. Except for Boy and His Blob. Also, Untamed Madness. Untamed Madness was terrible. At this point, I'd like to bring up Watch Grass Grow. I reviewed that at the RPG Maker magazine. It took me 12 hours to get through. Or was it 4 hours? I can't really remember. Anyway. I played through the whole thing. It was boring. Was it a terrible game? Sure, but not terrible in a way that you just hate it. It's just boring. Eventually I got to the end. Along the way you get rewards for making it so far. And then you got to the end and got the final reward, and it turned out that you don't actually get the final reward. You just get the third reward a second time. Which actually makes it a bit more crappier, because this means you can't, it's not even worth going all the way. I have a feeling I'm wasting my time. I am so going to enjoy watching Ratatouille. It's going to be so much more interesting than this. Oh yeah, another terrible game. Super Paper Mario. I hate it. I won't explain why. I'm thinking one day I'm going to do a Let's Play of it. Maybe after Aiden Chronicles. And then I'll get to show you all why I think the game is so terrible. Yeah, I still have all 3 keys. How long have I been going at this? Gotta be close to 3 hours by now. Actually, I feel kind of rejuvenated after that whole music discussion. No, I suppose there are other things I can talk about, but some of the things I want to talk about are actually rants that I want to say for standalone videos. Just for the sake of having a rant video that people would actually watch. Actually, I take that back. They wouldn't watch it, would they? No, they wouldn't. Woo, I've been talking so fun, my throat feels funny now. Time for another drink of Yoo-Hoo.
Tomorrow, I will not have a voice.
I don't know, I think I started since around 10:30, I guess. It's now after 1 o'clock, somewhere after 1 o'clock in the morning at night. It's not morning. Since when is 1 o'clock a.m. morning? I suppose it is if you're in 1 o'clock in the a.m. and somebody's talking to you and they're in the morning, I suppose. In my opinion, morning doesn't come until, the sun's up. Granted, it does get a little confusing because it's after 1 a.m. Technically, it's Friday, but do I call it Friday morning or do I call it Thursday night? I don't know. Another game that I don't really hate, but I found disappointing was Sly Cooper 2. They changed up the gameplay a bit for that one to... It's just not as good. Eventually I plan to LP that also. Might be sooner rather than later. I'm going to go through all three games. Sly, Sly 2, Sly 3. Oh, I heard there was a Sly 4 in the works for the PlayStation 3. That sucks. Because I don't see myself getting a PlayStation 3 anytime soon. It also sucks that the Ratchet and Clank games have also moved on to the PSP and the PS3. I can't play them. I love the Ratchet and Clank games. Those are fun. I have yet to beat the fourth one, though. Not that the fourth one is bad, although it's certainly different. The thing with the Ratchet and Clank 4 was I started playing it co-op with one of my cousins. And, we got a certain distance in, and then we stopped playing together, and I was waiting for him. I didn't want to continue without him, and then, he moved away, and then he moved away further, and currently he's in Japan, which makes me jealous. Except not that jealous, because, really bad stuff that happened there. But that's a depressing discussion. We're not going to talk about depressing stuff, because I don't like depressing stuff. Depressing stuff is why I think the world sucks sometimes. Life sucks too, but that's for different reasons. What else should I talk about? There are a bunch of games I want to let's play. First off, I already mentioned the Sly Cooper games. I'm gonna let's play those. Also, there's the fact that Paper Mario has been sitting in my introduction since I started doing these introductions. How did I forget to talk about Paper Mario? I actually did let's play that. This was while the Kirby's Adventure LP was going up. Now, the Kirby's Adventure Let's Play was supposed to be a filler, where while that was going up, I recorded all that ahead of time. While it was going up, I was supposed to be working on Slayer's Reign. I didn't really work on Slayer's Reign much. Instead, I mostly focused on Paper Mario. I got 14 episodes in, I'd say, into that recording, and then stopped for whatever reason. And let's see here. First off, it's a good thing I didn't air those episodes, because as it turns out, the first episode ran for an hour and 14 minutes long, with editing out of battles. Clearly, I did not do a good job keeping track of time. One funny thing about that LP As a reassurance that I would be working on Slayer's Reign while still doing that, recording that LP. At one point, I promised that by the time a certain episode aired, I would be on the 3rd memory card of Slayer's Reign. Or else I'm going to give somebody $50. I never actually reached the third memory card of Slayer's Reign, because as it turns out, that very same year, I got sick of Slayer's Reign. There was so much hype around it, I didn't feel like I was going to be able to make Slayer's Reign worth the hype. I didn't even want to talk about it. It suddenly changed from Slayer's Reign to that game which shall not be mentioned by name. I still think that Slayer's Reign is not going to meet anybody's expectations. Along with the writer's block, that's why Slayer's Reign has yet to be actually finished. Because there's this one portion of the game where originally when I wrote it, I thought it was a nice story, but then I decided the character that got introduced during that section was actually kind of pointless to the story, so I removed him from the story. And then that whole section of the game, as a result, also became useless. Plus, it was 2 dungeons in a row. And having played Mario and Luigi 2, which is another game I despise, Mario and Luigi 2 sent you through so many dungeons in a row that it sucked, and I hated it, and I didn't want to put you through too many dungeons in a row. Granted, at the start of Slayer's Reign, you go through a forest and then directly into a mountain area, but that's the beginning of the game. It's fairly easy. Later on, where this 2 dungeon part would come up, it's like, okay, we really don't need this. The enemies are more of a challenge now. Let's not do this. So now I've got this big gap in the plot that actually, despite it nothing being there, it doesn't fill any holes. There's no holes left open. It's just this gap in the plot where nothing's really happening. So that makes it more difficult because whatever I put there is either not going to have any relevance to the plot, or I'm going to have to try to figure out some way to come up with something that would be relevant to the plot. And that's why Slayer's Reign hasn't been finished yet. I can't think of a darn thing for that. How far over am I? I gotta be reaching the end. You know, I'm so surprised my thumb hasn't worn out. I hate button mashing games where you have to rapidly tap the A button or the B button or what have you in order to be able to win at rapid pace until your thumb falls off. The worst example of this I can think of is in Banjo-Tooie, because there's 2 mini games where you're racing against this person named Canary Mary, and you have to mash up on the A and B buttons at rapid pace in order to keep the train cart going. And the race is long. And the thing of it is, you can't stop to relax. You have to just keep pressing it the whole way through. Fortunately, you can pause the game at certain points, and that's what I do. My thumb gets tired, I pause the game, give my thumb a moment to rest, and then I unpause and continue. But, man, does that minigame suck. I'm going to LP that sometime also. Banjo-Kazooie, I gotta Let's Play because that's my favorite game, and as a rule, every Let's Player needs to Let's Play his favorite game. His or her favorite game. On that note, I don't know if I ever will be Let's Playing as Miss Fuzzball. I'd really like to, but my hopes have sort of dashed. My motivation to have a worthwhile life is sort of bleh, but whatever. There's also a Mario RPG hack out there called Mario RPG Revolution. I am definitely going to be getting to that because I need a hard version of Mario RPG to play. The regular Mario RPG is not fun anymore. It's too easy, it's boring. Give me a challenge. What else? Oh, well, eventually I'm definitely going to play Lantis and SK's game, Arc Aerith. That's going to be quite the experience. I look forward to that. I'm really excited about that, especially since they're actually getting close to finishing the game. They're just going to have to, after they get done with these last couple dungeons, they'll have to just go through the game and start balancing battles and do a few tweaks here and there. And then it'll be done. Next year, hopefully. For real. It's going to be awesome. On that note, it's also going to be sad because that's one more RPG Maker game finished, and it was a waste of time. Okay, I'm not as depressed as I thought I would be because I expected it. Let's go back to that door. The door over here, the giant door. If it turns out that I can't figure out how to finish this game, screw it. I put in 3 straight hours into this. You gotta give me credit for trying. Whatever. I'm not gonna go through this again. Open! And stay open. So there are no doors, unless I'm supposed to walk on every space and figure out where to put the key on every space. You know what, I'm just going to do this continuously. Maybe there's like a 1% chance that this door is going to let me through. I've pretty much run out of things to talk about anyway. Or at least not run out of things that I'd want to talk about, be willing to talk about in this episode. There's of course things I want to talk about in other episodes. Pure Solar. Definitely going to LP that one. It's going to be a blind LP. For those of you who don't know, it's the new Sega Genesis game that was created by fans. It's an actual physical Sega Genesis cartridge that released last year, I think. End of last year. It was either the end of last year or the start of this year. But it's really cool. I heard it's not that great. I heard it's actually very difficult. But who cares? I got it for the novelty of owning a new Sega Genesis game, really. Let me You suck, Focuses.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment, I present to you The Foreign Moth by Babelfish. Moth, 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 moth. Japanese text. Moth, 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 moth. Japanese text. In order the Japanese scale of the avoiding Japanese, it is and margin coming Japanese consequence. Japanese being full Japanese text. G. Japanese text opens in Japanese. Densely it is the Japanese. It is to hit now or will not, or rise to come with one, the Japanese text. The pain effect which goes you put in place the Japanese moth. The moth. The moth moth. The moth. Moth. Japanese text. Moth. 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 Japanese text. Japanese text. It does, and the Japanese sea urchin it is. Now is. The Japanese maggot. It is the Japanese you want is. The Japanese cup. It is ill-smelling. Japanese text. The Japanese text going back and forth. It does, the Japanese text. Don't you think? Japanese text. It is the Japanese text. The Japanese blotch it does. It is to be. The Tetsu does it is to be high. The Japanese text plain gaze concave. Moth. 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 Japanese text. Burn the Japanese mechanic. Japanese scale to be. Or the Japanese coming body glaring Japanese text in order to request Japanese and others of the G and the J fence. Japanese text to do when now the Japanese and one life which is you question, it does. And others at the time of the Japanese kana blotched the Japanese moth. The moth. The moth moth. The moth. Moth. Japanese text. Moth. 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 J energy crotch lining. Japanese. Japanese text. It does, and the Japanese sea urchin it is. Now is. The Japanese maggot. It is the Japanese you want is. The Japanese. It is occasion like this phosphorus. Japanese text. Japanese float. You question and Papa's niece. J energy crotch lining. It is the Japanese text. It is to obtain the Japanese desired. The Japanese text does is high, and others the new Japanese plain gauze concave. Moth, 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 moth. Japanese text. Moth, 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 moth. Japanese text. It does. The Japanese text being cut off. Already the Japanese text. Japanese G, Japanese van? It is the Japanese. Grommet consequence. Obtaining say it is the grommet. Japanese. My Japanese plain gauze concave. Moth. Moth, moth, moth. Japanese text.